Hi friends, Shayla here. So I am here to do my monthly stats and favorites video. If you're new to my channel, I do this as kind of like a monthly wrap-up. I do weekly wrap-ups for everything I've read. So in this one, I'm just gonna be talking about like the things that stood out this month and giving you kind of the general stats. There are certain things that I like to track every month, and this is the video where I share those kinds of things. So let's get into my October stats. I'm gonna tell you right now that they are wild. I have never had a month like this, and I'm just gonna tell you that right up front. Please do not ever hold yourself to the standard that I read, because even I won't be keeping up this pace. Like, it was just insane. I did a lot of audiobooks this month and some things like that because Audible Escape was going away. So this is a banner month. You will never see this month again, I'm sure. So please take these stats with like a grain of salt and never think that I expect you to read like this, because I can't even believe I did this. If I didn't have the stats being tracked, I wouldn't have thought I did this. So in the month of October, I read 61 novels. That does include novellas. A lot of things were really short this month. And then I did also read 24 volumes of manga, which is a total of 85 titles read. Again, this is insane. Please don't ever think that I expect to hold you to that standard. 24 of those books were audiobooks. Again, I read a ton of audiobooks because Audible Escape was going away, and there were a bunch of short ones. So my actual October page count is 22,750, which I think is pretty accurate, depicting how short a lot of the titles that I read were. And then my yearly page count for the year is at 174,496. Please note that those page counts do include all of the manga, and I can sit down and read a standard size volume of manga in about 30 to 45 minutes, and those tend to run about 200 pages. So again, that yearly total has a lot more to do with manga than with my actual novels on that one. So the other thing I love to track is the actual like core 4 demographics, because I like to make sure that I'm reading broadly enough that I'm touching each demographic every month. And I think my balance is probably the best with this particular month than it's been in a long time, but I also read a lot less, so I think it was easier to make sure things were balanced. So I read 4 shonen titles, 10 shoujo titles, 5 seinen titles, and 5 josei titles. So if you want to know more about what those demographics mean, I do have a whole video talking about the demographics and their definitions. So I will leave that linked in the corner. So if you want kind of a explanation as to what the terminology I'm using means, you can check out that video. All right, let's talk about star ratings for the books, and then I'll do star ratings for the manga. So I had 2 2-star reads this month, 5 3-star reads, 10 3.5-star reads, 30 4-star reads, and those are good books that I recommend. They just didn't do anything above and beyond that, which is why they get 4 stars. I read 5 4.5 stars, and then 9 5 stars. I had a really good reading month, y'all. Like, it was really good. I had some really good ones in there. And then we're going to quickly go over the star ratings for manga as well. I am much pickier with manga than I am with books, so I tend to not have a ton of really low ratings. So I have 2 3.5-star reads, 12 4-star reads, 1 4.5-star read, and 10 5-star reads. I tend to really love the manga that I pick out, so most of them tend to be 5 stars. So with those stats out of the way, let's talk about favorites. I have 6 of each that I want to talk to you about. Normally I cap it at 5, but this month was so good for the amount of 5 stars that I opted to do 6. So let's go ahead and dive in. We're going to start with the manga and then go to the books. I think I'll spend more time talking about the books than I will about the manga, which is why I'm going to start with the manga. So first up, Wotakoi Volume 4 finally came out. This was a 5-star read. This is fantastic. I have a whole vlog in which I reread the first 3 omnibuses, because these are 2-in-1s. So I reread the first 3, and then I read this one for the first time. So I will leave that linked in the corner if you want absolute specifics, but know that I loved this. These 2 are amazing in this volume, and I love the development that we're starting to see in the initial couple in Narumi and Hirotaka. We get a lot of development for them in this volume as well, and that was really good. But we are spending a lot of time with Now and Ko, and the way they're developing is super cute. Like, the whole thing is just amazing. Like, if you are not reading this office romance, what are you doing with yourself? Go read it. It's not smutty, but man, it's fun. Next, when a volume of this releases, you can always expect to see it in this video, but volume 4 of Sweat and Soap came out in October. I loved this so much. This series continues to surprise me. It has the weirdest concept ever, and I won't deny that it's the weirdest concept ever, but what it does at its core is it depicts a healthy relationship in which they're communicating. They may not communicate right away, but the discussions are actually happening. And if one of them says, let me think about it, they honor that and they give them the time and the space to do that. And they don't automatically assume they're going to break up because they asked to think about it. They're like, okay, well, what didn't I think about? And then they start to like evaluate how they thought about it. And it's just this open, communicative relationship. I thrive. I love this series so much. This one is smutty, so if you're looking for smutties, please, Sweat and Soap. Yes. Yes. Y'all have been hearing me fangirl about this all month. I've been doing everything in my power to convince everybody else to pick it up, and that is Cutie and the Beast. This is an age gap romance featuring a pro wrestler and an 18-year-old still in high school, and it is pure as it's so pure. He is just the biggest cinnamon roll. He has a pet rabbit. I love him so much. Kuga is his name. Kuga is like my new manga boyfriend. I love him so much. Aesthetically, he is like grown-up muscly Asahi, and I thrive on that look for him. And yes, I love Kuga so much. And her name is Momoka. She's really cute. I really like her, and she just loves him for who he is. And he sees that, but he does worry about the age gap because he is in the public spotlight. So he has to be really careful with his behavior. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out, especially with the way the cliffhanger went in this one. So yes, love this. And another one that you can just expect to see anytime it releases is Ancient Magus Bride Volume 13. I continue to love this series. This particular one focuses more on like the whole world, like the Ancient Magus Bride world and the way things are working within it. And one of the classmates, it's her, I believe it's her actual roommate at the dorm, even though she doesn't really stay there. She stays with Elias at their home. But this is fantastic. I absolutely loved this. This was so interesting. The intrigue and the way the world continues to open up through the series is fantastic. I really loved this. We get the wrap up of the camping trip of the previous volume and a lot of other things and kind of the fallout of all of that. It's just so good, y'all. It's so good. If you haven't tried the Ancient Magus Bride, it's one of my all-time favorites. Please read it. It's so good. Next, we had the finale of the Demon Prince of Momochi House. I read the finale of Our Horror Ride in a previous month, so that's why that one's not in this video. But I did love the finale of the Demon Prince of Momochi House. The way that everything wraps up for Himari and Aoi. I wanted to make sure I was saying the right names. The way that the whole situation with the Momochi house wraps up for the two of them is fantastic. I really like it. And it ended up turning into a trope that I really love. I can't tell you which trope because that would totally spoil how the ending goes. But I love it so much with my whole heart and soul. And I really enjoyed the choice that Ayakano made at the end. Or Ayashoto. Ayakano does Requiem of the Rose King. Ayashoto did this one, and he's my only vampire. So I love this. I loved the art as always, and yeah, we get a little bit of a time skip at the end, and it was really good. I love how it was handled. Please go read it. And then last but not least for the manga, we have The Girl from the Other Side, Volume 9. Now, this one actually took on a pretty interesting turn right at the very end that I wasn't exactly expecting. This deals a lot with Shiva and the situation that Shiva was in Volume 8. Again, because this is Volume 9 in a series, I'm being kind of vague, but there's a particular dynamic between Teacher and Shiva that changes right at the end of this volume, and it was absolutely mind-boggling. I did not see it coming, and I'm really interested to see where it's going to go from here. Like, I'm just thriving on this series. It's so good. This is another one that you can probably expect to see anytime a volume comes out in these kinds of videos, because I always enjoy them. And it was so, so good. Highly recommend very much. All right, from there, let's go on to the books. There's a few that I don't have physical copies of, so I've got half and half. So let's do the half that I have, and then we'll do the half that I don't. So first up, let's talk about Truth or Dare by Danielle Allen. This is a novella about college friends who always played Truth or Dare together. They get reacquainted for the wedding of the main couple of their grouping, and it's about how two of them had kind of stayed in contact loosely. They saw each other like once a year maybe, and he's like had the glow up of the century, and they hook up on this destination wedding, and it is so fun. It was exactly what I wanted out of a story like this, and I had the best time. And the whole time I was reading the sexy scenes, this was what I was picturing, and I was thriving on that image. Anyways, it was so good. I do think that this was pretty much perfect. I have no complaints about it. I wish it were longer. Like, I really want to see if Danielle Allen writes any more with this friend group, because I would thrive on those books. Like, they would be so fun. Like, even if it was, like, there are some other couples that start to develop at this destination wedding. So I would love to see, like, the destination wedding from the other couples' perspectives. That would be absolutely amazing. If Danielle Allen happens to stumble on this video and see this, I would love to see the rest of them. But Kingston and Simone, their chemistry was electric. I loved it. It was just so fun. All right, next we have Any Rogue Will Do by Bethany Bennett. This has an amazing groveling hero. Basically, she's going to come out to the ton for the first time. And, what's his name? Ethan, the Viscount Amesbury. He was a new Viscount at the time, and he basically made her a laughingstock of the ton. And so she leaves the season for the year, has some other family things that keep her away for 10 years. So 10 years later, she's finally getting her season, and he's still unmarried, and he realizes that he was a douche canoe to her, and he comes to her groveling, trying to get her to forgive him so that he can have a decent season, and so can she, and feelings start to develop from there. The grovel is really good, and then we have a pretty good dual grovel by the end of this, because there's some stuff that happens towards the end that causes both of them to need to grovel to each other, and it's really well handled. One of my favorite historicals I read all month. It was so good. It was just so good. I loved this a whole lot. Highly recommend. And last, for the physical ones that I have not picked up physicals of the other three, but I will be soon. And that is Crazy Stupid Bromance by Alyssa K. Adams. No one is surprised that this is on this list. I love the Bromance Book Club series, and this one is a really awesome friends to lovers style romance. So in this one, we're following Alexis, who we met in the previous book. She is a victim of a Me Too kind of situation, is how I'll word that. So if that's something that you're sensitive to, you might be sensitive to some of these triggers. But she owns a little cafe, and she has her cat, and her cafe's kind of become a safe haven for people who are victims. And it wasn't done intentionally. People just found out about her because she was on the news, because it was a high profile thing. And it ended up, you know, having people have this place where they felt safe and they had someone to talk to. And this is also the guy who one of the guys who helped her. His name's Noah. He's a computer hacker. He's the one who like hacked and got a lot of the like voice recordings and stuff for the Me Too situation. And read Undercover Bromance to understand that situation. But that's how they met, is through her being saved from this situation and from this guy being reported. And so it's like a year and a half later, I want to say, and they have become amazing friends. And they both want to take it to the next level, but they don't know how to do that because they don't want to sacrifice their amazing friendship that they have, and they both feel like they need. And it's amazing. I loved this so very much. It was a one-sitting book. It was just everything I wanted and I needed, because it shows that it does friends to lovers right, in my opinion, because it has them genuinely wonder if it's just that friendship feeling or if it really is more. And it just happens organically and slowly. And it wasn't just that she was a victim and immediately jumped into bed with this guy. Like, a lot of time has passed. They've had a chance to really get to know one another. And it's fantastic. I really loved this. And it did a lot of setup for the next book, which is the Russians book. And I'm very much looking forward to the rest of this series. I will take however many she wants to write in the series, but this particular one has been my favorite so far in the series, and I've loved the other two. So honestly, Crazy Stupid Romance is so good. Like, y'all just need to read it. So for the ones I haven't been able to pick up physical copies of yet. Okay, the first one I want to talk about is From Luke with Love. I finally read this famous Mariana Zapata. This is the most read and probably one of the most loved Mariana Zapatas out there. And I absolutely adored this. It was so good. Ivan was an amazing character. And I actually understood his motivations throughout the book. And it was just so good. I really loved their dynamic. Of course, all the ice skating stuff was great. But how they organically went from enemies to friends to lovers was just such a joy. I really loved him and Jasmine so much. I believe her name's Jasmine. That's what my brain's wanting to remember. Let's hope I'm right. And I really just had the best time with this book. And I don't mind a good slow burn every so often. If you go into this, expect like creepy, crawly slow burn, but it was really fun. And I really just, it takes place over the period of time of like a year, I want to say, or close to it. And I really just, there's also some cyber stalking on this. So please like be aware of that if you're sensitive to that. And I really had the best time reading From Luke with Love, and I can't recommend it enough. All right, the next one we are going to talk about is Silver Silence. This is the first book in the Psy Changeling Trinity series. I did a lot of Psy Changeling world reading this month, and so I just picked out my favorite from that to represent that, and that is definitely Silver Silence. In this one, we're following Silver, who is the assistant of Caleb Krychek, who is a big player in the Psy Changeling series, and then she ends up with a bear pack alpha basically pursuing her romantically. He's been trying to court her in traditional human ways. It's so super sweet. And I love the bear pack. I love the baby bear gangsters, but the dynamic between those two is just electric and amazing. And I absolutely love this so much. I cannot get enough of this series, and I definitely want more with the bear pack. And again, if Neilani Singh ever comes across this video, I want more with the bear pack. It basically takes place around Russia, so he's got this great Russian accent. The audiobook was just fantastic for this particular one, and it fed my soul in the best way. Like, I don't know how else to talk about it. There's so much going on. I can't spoil the Psy Changeling series. This is book one in the Psy Changeling Trinity, but you need to know about the Psy Changeling series and at least understand that world to read this book. So I can't like spoil things and tell you specifics. But basically, she is an organizer of a group to kind of help all the different races in this world. And so he, representing his bear pack, ends up helping her out. So they've interacted for quite a while before it becomes romantic, and she's got some family trying to kill her, and it's really interesting. It's just so good. Y'all just need to read the Psy Changeling series and make sure you don't skip out late in the series, because Silver Silence is by far my favorite book in the entire Psy Changeling universe, and that was tough to decide because I really enjoyed Kiss of Snow, which is Hawk and Sienna's book. I also read that this month, but Silver Silence took it for me because I really love that bear pack. I want more with them so much. And then last but not least on this list, we are going to talk about Leopards Rage by Christine Feehan. I really enjoy Christine Feehan. I know she is not everybody's taste, but this particular book was so unique, I couldn't not put it on this list. So in this one, we're following Sebastian, and Sebastian is a bodyguard to his cousin, Mattia, and we met Mattia in the previous book in the series. And so Mattia has a mate now because it's a fated mates kind of situation. And he's trying to connect his property with Mattia's property. So he hires this amazing landscape architect. Her name is Flambe. Yes, that is the most unfortunate thing about this book. Her name is Flambe. And she's rescheduled with him a couple different times, but she finally shows up at his house, like, out of breath. She was run off the road. She literally sprinted to his house. And so he wants to protect her. His leopard wants to protect her and her leopard because she is a leopard, but she's a very unique leopard. She is what they call a strawberry leopard. So there are some physical discomforts with being a strawberry leopard, and you definitely see that present in this particular book. And there's a way they kind of loophole that a little bit almost for certain things to happen in this book. Anyways, so Sebastian's leopard reaches out to Flambe's leopard, and they claim each other as mates. And so in Sebastian's eyes, they're married, but in Flambe's eyes, she's wondering if the mating only happened under duress and whether they really are supposed to be mates. But she's been drawn to him for a long time, even before this situation, because she was hired to work at a club to build kind of an oasis because she's the landscape architect, and he wanted to build this beautiful life plant oasis within his club. And while she was there, she saw Sebastian doing shibari bondage, which is Japanese bondage. She saw him doing a shibari pose with someone, and she was immediately like sexually aroused and all those kinds of things. And it was so good because they start to connect through the shibari, and the shibari is used as a way to free Flambe from her insecurities, and she is able to open up and communicate, and he just finds her beautiful no matter what, and loves seeing her in the ropes because of her pale skin and all these kinds of things. It's absolutely such an interesting romance to read because the lines of communication are open but not. It's a really interesting dynamic between the two of them, and this is definitely one of the most unique Feehan books I've read. I mean, like, her characters weren't super unique. She's pretty boilerplate with how she likes to do them. I mean, Sebastian's definitely alpha. You can't say he's not. And Flambe is naturally submissive. So they definitely have that dom-sub thing going on with the bondage. And she uses it to empower her, and it's so good. Like, I could talk about this book forever. I'm not going to, but I could. And this one's out on the 10th, so I highly recommend checking it out. You can read it for the Love in the Night read-along that's happening next week, so you can pick up a copy and then read it, and it'll be great. You won't regret it, I promise. But yeah, I had a really good time with this particular one. Most of the Leopard books stand on their own pretty well. The world isn't too complex, but they are involved with the Russian mafia, so it's like mafia plus alpha shifter, and I just thrive on it. It's not going to be for everybody, obviously, but man, I really enjoyed it. So those were some of my favorites from the month, as well as my stats. Let me know in the comments down below what some of your favorite reads from October were, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.